Hey. Hey. Hello. Hi. Welcome to my living room.
Choose your character.
I want to talk about Pokemon Legends ZA. I've got some notes here. I've been doing some thinking, some pondering, if you will. The Pokemon Company has given us nothing. They have given us like nothing to work with. So I want to touch on what we do know, and then I've got like a couple theories to explore. First, we know that the game is taking place in Lumio City. That is the Circle City from Pokemon X and Y. And we know that there is going to be some type of a like redesign, urban development thing going on in Lumio City. We can only assume that we are a part of that. We're trying to create like this city that's a good space for humans and Pokemon to like coexist, which we've seen that before in a couple of games and in a couple of other areas in the Pokemon world, which I'm coming back to, okay? We also know that this game is Kalos region game, so we're gonna see Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie. Oh, Bud! Oh my god. Thank you so much for all of that, Bud. He's just typed a bunch of things. Those starters, most likely, is what I'm assuming, unless we had new starters, but I don't think that we will. And we're living in a city, and we're trying to make this city harmonious for Pokemon and for people to live together, right? We've seen that before, specifically in Detective Pikachu. And I rewatched the first half of Detective Pikachu last night because I wanted to for research, and I couldn't finish it because I hate Detective Pikachu. That's not the point. Keep Detective Pikachu in your brain because we will most likely have to come back to that. So, Lumio City is inspired by Paris. You see the little Eiffel Tower and you get it, right? Paris. Now, Paris underwent like this massive redevelopment project between 1850 and 1870 when it was under Napoleon III. The goal was to create like a modern city capable of accommodating their growing population and like do something about all of the infrastructure challenges that the city had at the time. I promise that this is going to be relevant and it's going to come into play here. Paris had their redesign, and now Lumio City, based on Paris, we're doing urban development. We love that. What did Napoleon focus on when they were doing the redesign of Paris? Infrastructure, specifically roads, canals, bridges. So we have to assume that since we don't have the overworld to like run around and go from city to city, that the roads and bridges and such that we're developing in Lumio City will replace our routes. Fine. Picture stylized version of 19th century France and then like put Pikachu in there. Now we're in Lumio City. We haven't had any games based completely in one city before. I don't like love the idea, but I think that it's not actually going to be one city. So we'll get to that. I want to touch on Zygarde as a main part of the game, which I think we almost know for sure that Zygarde is going to be super important. Shaping up to be like a really key component in the story and in the game's mechanics. Zygarde is that guy, by the way, in case you don't know what he looks like, and he also is this guy, and he's also this guy. So he's different things. And in order to get him to evolve, you have 1 to 5 like Zygarde cores, and then a bunch of Zygarde cells, and you mush them all together, and now he's little Zygarde, and then he's medium Zygarde, and then he's big boy Zygarde. And you can make him devolve, okay? It's giving Digimon. It's giving Slowbro the thing let go of his tail.
Father, help!
It's giving Mega Evolution. Mega Evolution is like the only time we see Pokemon essentially devolving other than Zygarde. So the fact that we've got Mega Evolutions and the fact that we've got Zygarde together makes perfect sense to me. I think that we'll hear more about like the lore, the background of Mega Evolutions, and there is a lot of like debate as to what Mega Evolutions, what their history is, what their lore is, but we will also get into that. We're just kind of setting the scene right now. So far we've established the where, Lumio City, right? We've established a little bit of the who. We know Zygarde and we know Kalos region is gonna be big. As far as when goes, I have to assume this is in the past. I've seen a lot of speculation of people saying like, oh, in like the trailer, there was, you know, 2 versions of the city and it went from being like an architecture thing to like super futuristic. And I don't think so. I don't think it's gonna be like a time travel thing. I think they wanted the trailer to look cool, and that is why they chose to animate it that way. But I think we're probably gonna be in the past, especially because you have to think about Pokemon Legends. the Arceus was way back, right? That was like essentially the beginning of Pokemon time. Like not really, but kind of, sort of. I think that Legends as a series is about going back to the past and learning the legends behind Pokemon. So I don't think we're time traveling here. I think that is unlikely. Zygarde, to get him to evolve and devolve, you're collecting up all these Zygarde cells. In order to, make progress as far as building a city, you're collecting up a bunch of materials. I don't think that that is a coincidence. I don't think that Zygarde's ability to devolve is a coincidence either, considering that and the Mega Evolutions. Zygarde's he's a big player in protecting the environment, right? He's like a guardian. And there are some theories floating around suggesting that he's got like ties to Norse and Hindu mythology. So Zygarde, we know some things about him, but a lot of stuff we know about him is like, we're theorizing. Also, you have to think about Zygarde's design, right? And the Zygarde cells and all of that. We see a lot of hexagons. And Lumiose City is laid out in a way that has like 6 core locations. You've got the center, right? And then you have your 5 outside buildings that go around the center, and it's laid out in that way. So what are those 5 core locations around the center going to be, and what's the center going to be? I think that the center is going to be essentially like Safari Zone. Like you're gonna have a structure there. I don't necessarily know that it's gonna be the same structure that you've had there in previous games, but I do think there's gonna be essentially like the equivalent to a Safari Zone, some grass, some area for encounters. Imagine that the city's like a pizza pie, right? And it's cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. I think that each slice of pizza is gonna be unlocked one at a time. So you go into one and you start in like that main core center area of that section. And I think that's probably gonna be some type of a building or maybe a park or something. And then from there you have to basically build out that section and then move on to the next area. Why do I think that? Because I do. I think that it's not a coincidence that there are basically 6 main areas going on here, the center and then 5 outsides and then Zygarde hexagons. And there's another point in this where we're gonna look at the number 6, but we're not there yet. Encounters all around the city, we like that, that's fine. Maybe it'll be similar to like how you encounter trainers in old games where like you make eye contact with a Pokemon that's like on the street and it's like, you wanna fight, and then you fight. But I also think that we are going underground. I really think we are. I think a huge part of this game is gonna be like, it's giving BDSP, where you are underground and there's like little like underground Pokemon gardens, because how else can they do it? Like there's no other way for them to do this all in one city. We have to go underground. Another reason I think we're going underground is the whole premise of this being like an urban redesign. Plumbing is part of that. Plumbing, pipes, think Mario, right? You're going underground in these pipes and you're seeing everything down there. I think that we are going to head underground for some type of like a structural or urban development based emergency or disaster. And we're down there and we're gonna encounter a whole bunch of Pokemon. I also think it's relevant that the pipes and tunnels and underground portions of your city are kind of like the city's roots, and Zygarde basically summons and controls big, massive roots. I don't think that is a coincidence. I think that that is also intentional and like symbolic. I think that going underground will give Nintendo and the Pokemon Company a lot of wiggle room on the game is in one single city thing, and so I think that's almost definitely sure. Also, if you go back to our 4-second history lesson about the history of France and the infrastructure and roads and canals and bridges, sewer system also would be included essentially in like the infrastructure of that city to a certain extent, or maybe like, a subway system or something like that, something where you're going underground. In the X and Y, you can like get a taxi to go anywhere really, really fast. I think maybe we're looking at like a subway system here, and there will be some type of an electrical emergency, and then there's electric Pokemon that you gotta, that's what I think. I think there's gonna be a subway and a lot of underground tunnels. You're gonna be basically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle all the time, which we love. We love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Also, the city's shaped like a pizza. So is it just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Who's to say? Before we move on from the whole hexagon, 6 major places in Lumiose City, I also wanna touch on Floette really quick. Now, we know that do you say Az or AZ? I don't know. We know that Az's Floette plays a major part in the storyline of X and Y, and we know that a normal Floette holds a flower with 5 petals, and that there are 5 forms of Floette, and then there's 1/6 special form of Floette, the Eternal Flower Floette, and the Eternal Flower Floette carries a flower with not 5, but 6 petals. 6 forms, 6 petals, 6 places, 6 sides to a hexagon, 6 Pokemon in your party. I don't think it's a coincidence. Let's also loop back to Mega Evolutions, right? Originally, they were introduced in X and Y, so it makes sense that they would come back for another game in the Kalos region. And to Mega Evolve a Pokemon, you need its matching Mega Evolution Stone, and you also need a Keystone. Okay. The Pokemon gets like really big and scary, but like only for a second, and then he goes back to regular size. When they Mega Evolve, the changes to them are beyond just superficial. They don't just look different and get bigger. Their typing can change. They get a notable boost in their stats, except for HP for whatever reason. Mega Evolutions are dependent upon a Pokemon and its trainer having a, quote, strong connection. In theory, although you can Mega Evolve a Pokemon you just caught if you have the stone, so I guess like that's kind of a plot hole, but it's just a game, right? So we have to give them some grace. You're seeing Zygarde, who is like the protector of the environment in the Pokemon world, or at least one of the Pokemon who plays that role. And then also you're seeing these Mega Evolutions that in theory are based a lot on like trust and companionship and bonding. So far we're in line with that same theme that Pokemon always wants to give us. Super sweet. But like that's really all we know about Mega Evolution. We know that in theory they're based on like the trust between a Pokemon and their trainer, and that you need a Keystone and that you need a Mega Evolution Stone. The Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, we don't know until those games for sure what the Keystones and the Mega Evolution Stones are actually made of. We find out in that game that they are basically made of meteorites. In the game, there is a lot of debate about the background for Mega Evolutions between like the actual characters in the game. Professor Sycamore thinks that they originate from like evolution stones that were irradiated by the light of Xerneas and Yveltal. I can't say that one. He thinks they're a new type of evolution that happens only in the Kalos region. Then you have like the ancient Hoenn tribe that like worships Rayquaza, you know them, the Draconids, I think they're called. They think Mega Evolution originates from Rayquaza, and then also they are the ones who start like the meteorite theory, which ends up, at least the meteorite part of that ends up being, you know, true to form. Basically, some glowing meteorites came crashing down. They looked like keystones. Rayquaza showed up and was like, "Can you please chill?" And everybody did. They were like, "I'm so sorry, Ray. We're chill now." And they did. They chilled for like the next 1,000 years. And then they got all riled up again. Kyogre was like, and then Groudon was like, and then Rayquaza was like, and he showed up and he was like, "What? Like literally, what did I tell you last time?" And he got really mad and he just got really excited and ginormous, and then he Mega Evolved, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, sorry boss, won't happen again." And now Pokemon can Mega Evolve, right? Now Blastoise gets extra big. So we know from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire that Keystones, Mega Evolution Stones, those are made of meteorites, right? Maybe meteorites will hit Lumiose City and we'll need to travel around underground while they rebuild it. Perhaps. That's what I think we're looking at here. Hopefully, we'll find out around January 2025. Legends Arceus was released in January, and so, you know, we know we're not getting the game until at least 2025. I'm hoping that it'll follow that same release pattern. I'm hoping that Legends, their release will always be in January since it was the first time, mostly because I want the game as soon as possible. I think it's possible that since we are, you know, going to be in a city in this game, we're going to see a lot of stuff similar to Detective Pikachu. Maybe we'll have our own little like apartment, and sometimes like Pokemon will be able to get in, or maybe, you know, there will be like that what's the stuff? The smoke stuff that was in Detective Pikachu. Maybe you'll see something like that where there's like one team of bad guys that makes all the Pokemon in the city angry, or like shadow Pokemon. Maybe we'll see shadow Pokemon that are all over the city and we have to help purify them. Those are some of my theories and what we know right now about Legends. It's not a lot, but these are the things that I think based on what I have learned. But what do I know? I'm just a girl, so bye.